January 2026 began with a bang that echoed far beyond Russia's borders. On January 4th, the world witnessed what many military experts are already calling the Lipetsk disaster. The largest military battery manufacturing plant in the Russian Federation, a strategic pillar for the production of high-tech weaponry, was reduced to a smoldering carcass. Columns of black smoke, laden with toxic chemical residues, rose hundreds of meters into the frozen sky, while out-of-control fires consumed decades of investment in defense infrastructure. Russian authorities, in a state of ill-disguised panic, immediately declared a pink-level UAV threat alert across the entire Lipetsk region. This was not an isolated incident. It was the fifth time this specific facility had been targeted. However, this time, there was a fundamental difference that left the Kremlin in shock. The attack did not come from missiles fired from across the Ukrainian border. Ukraine did not just attack, it infiltrated. The enemy was already operating inside Russian territory, and the factory was not destroyed by external fire, but rather imploded by a force that emerged from the shadows. Before we dive into the technical details of this audacious operation, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell. Your subscription helps us continue revealing the truths that governments try to hide. The operation began long before the sun rose over the frozen plains of Lipetsk. An ordinary delivery vehicle, apparently carrying mundane goods like fruit or consumer electronics, parked quietly on a side road just 15 miles from the city of Yelets. To any Russian patrol, it looked like just another ordinary citizen working in the early hours. But inside that van was the most expensive and lethal cargo in recent drone warfare history, the dreaded Baba Yaga. The Baba Yaga is no ordinary drone. We are talking about a 120-pound carbon fiber hexacopter equipped with engines that roar like a vintage Harley-Davidson. In this mission, these drones acted as true flying aircraft carriers. Each Baba Yaga carried 5 smaller FPV drones attached under its structure. It was a formation of 4 mothers and 20 children, designed with brutal redundancy. If a mother was shot down, the children would continue the mission. The target was the Russian military Giga factory, the beating heart of high-intensity lithium-ion battery production that powers Kinzhal hypersonic missile systems and devastating UMPK-guided bombs. If you value detailed military analysis like this, leave your like right now. This signals to the algorithm that this content is relevant for those seeking to understand the future of warfare. The Russian strategy to protect this vital asset was, in theory, flawless. The factory was located 155 miles from the front line, surrounded by an air defense ring that cost billions of dollars, including Pantsir S-1 and Tor M1 systems. On paper, it was an impregnable fortress. But Ukrainian intelligence found a flaw in the Russian armor: the weather. A colossal blizzard was sweeping the region, with 40 km/h winds and near-zero visibility. While Russian radar operators huddled near heaters, assuming nothing could fly in such conditions, the Ukrainian team knew that for high-precision thermal sensors, a blizzard is not a barrier, but a cloak of invisibility. The plan was a masterpiece of precision and sacrifice. Ukraine was willing to lose every one of these assets, which cost hundreds of millions of dollars in development, for the chance to paralyze a Russian production line worth billions. With coordinates locked into anti-jamming GPS systems and a synchronized mesh network, the engines were started. The sound was muffled by the howling wind as the drones disappeared into the total whiteout of the storm, flying just 60 meters above the ground to avoid detection. Share this video in your WhatsApp groups and social networks. The truth about what is happening in Russia needs to be known by everyone. 15 miles away, in a mobile control center, Ukrainian operators monitored every detail with surgical focus. They were not using Starlink or traditional radio frequencies, which are easily detected and blocked. Instead, they operated a proprietary mesh network. Think of it as an intelligent communication system where each drone acts as a repeater. If a mother was hit, the others would instantly take over navigation data. It was a collective brain that healed in real time in the middle of the blizzard. For local residents of Lipetsk, the sound of the Baba Yaga's engines through the storm did not sound like a high-tech weapon. It sounded just like the familiar sound of an old tractor working in some distant field. No one looked up. No one suspected that the mechanical assassins were about to strike the heart of Russia's missile supply chain. What do you think of this Ukrainian tactic of using the weather as a weapon? Leave your comment below. We want to know your opinion on this innovation on the battlefield. Now let's analyze the other side. The factory's bouncers, the Panzer S-1 and Tor M1 systems. On paper, these systems are the Avengers of Russian air defense. The Panzer's radar is designed to detect even a bird 20 miles away. And about an hour before the main attack, these radars actually detected something. The Russian Ministry of Defense was already celebrating, claiming to have shot down 4 long-range Ukrainian drones. In reality, they had fallen into a trap. Ukraine launched cheap plastic decoys to inflate the Russian ego and exhaust their attention. While Russian officials posted on Telegram about their glorious victory, the real threat was less than 5 miles from the factory gates. Russian defense was convinced the sky was clear. They relaxed, lowered their guard, and went to get a cup of tea, unaware that the invisible explosion was about to happen. It was at this moment of overconfidence that the Ukrainians chose their final targets, turning million-dollar defense systems into mere garden ornaments. Take the opportunity to check if you are still subscribed. YouTube sometimes removes subscriptions from channels that bring uncomfortable truths. Ensure you won't miss the next updates. 5 miles from the plant, the game of cat and mouse ended. The 4 Baba Yagas climbed to 400 meters, acting as high-altitude signal relay towers. This was where the plan went from clever to genius. By staying back, the mothers maintained a crystal-clear data link with the children, while the 20 FPV drones dove into the radar shadows, below the detection zone. In less than 60 seconds, the saturation began. The drones did not fly in a straight line. They surrounded the factory. 5 from the north, 5 from the south, 5 from the east, and 5 from the west. This is the nightmare of any fire control system. 20 independent targets appearing simultaneously from opposite directions. It's like trying to catch 20 tennis balls thrown at your head at the same time. You might catch 2 or 3, but the other 17 will cause permanent damage. The first wave of 8 drones had a specific mission: turn out the lights. They hit the main electrical substation with surgical precision. For a brief moment, the Russian night was illuminated by a 110,000-volt blue electric arc. The factory went dark. Heating systems stopped, but most importantly, Russian radars lost their primary power source and had to wait for emergency generators. Chaos was total. Security teams ran through dark corridors, shouting into radios that now only emitted static. Do you believe Russia will be able to recover from this logistical blow? Leave your analysis in the comments. Let's debate the economic consequences of this attack. Outside, the Panzer operators were in a panic. Their thermal screens were saturated by the heat from the substation fire, making it almost impossible to lock onto the small FPVs moving rapidly through the snow. The Russian response was spray and pray. Dual 30mm cannons opened fire, creating a wall of red tracers in the dark sky, 950 rounds per minute of pure desperation. The sky over Yelets looked like a web of fire. A Russian operator, driven by adrenaline and fear, finally managed a solid lock and fired a surface-to-air missile. The rocket lit up the clouds and hit one of the Baba Yagas. The Russian commander likely shouted, "Contact," celebrating the destruction of the 120-pound mother. Russian cannons also managed to down about 6 or 7 FPV drones. For the Kremlin, this was sold as a strategic victory. But the math was cruel. Russia spent $1 million missile and thousands of expensive munitions to destroy $15,000 worth of Ukrainian plastic and engines. And the worst for Moscow, while they celebrated, 3 Baba Yagas were still in the air, relaying perfect signals. 13 FPV drones had already crossed the defense line and were inside the factory perimeter. They had passed through the death zone and were now aiming directly at the ventilation vents of the lithium-ion battery production room. The Russian garrison was protecting a facility that, for all intents and purposes, was already doomed. If you want to support our channel more directly, consider becoming a member. Members have access to exclusive content and priority in replies. Click the join button below. The attack entered its final phase. The 13 remaining FPV drones dove toward their targets. Russian electronic defense finally woke up, flooding the radio waves with white noise. On Ukrainian screens, the video turned to static. For a second, it seemed like the end of the mission. 4 FPVs lost their link and fell into the snow like wounded birds. But the remaining mothers increased the power of their transmitters, piercing through the Russian interference like a hot knife through butter. 9 drones regained vision just 100 meters from the factory windows. A Pantsir S-1 attempted a desperate maneuver, spinning its cannons 180 degrees, but it was too late. 2 drones were vaporized, but the remaining 7 danced between the tracers as if they were in an action movie. 1 drone entered through the skylight, another hit the loading bridge. High-intensity thermal explosions began to occur in a chain. The lithium cells started a thermal runaway process impossible to extinguish. The destruction of the Lipetsk plant is not just a material loss. It is a devastating psychological blow. Russia proved it cannot protect its most valuable assets, even with billions invested in air defense. Ukraine, on the other hand, proved that innovation and audacity can overcome brute force. The war's chessboard has changed again, and this time, checkmate seems closer than the Kremlin would like to admit. Thank you for watching until the end. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. See you in the next breaking news update. Additional technical analysis: the science behind the Baba Yaga. To understand why the Baba Yaga is so effective, we need to look at its engineering. Unlike consumer drones, it is built with composite materials that absorb radar waves, making it a semi-stealth platform. Its high-torque electric motors allow it to carry heavy payloads without the massive thermal signature of a combustion engine. This makes it almost invisible to heat-seeking missiles until it's too late. Furthermore, the integration of artificial intelligence for terminal navigation means that even if the link with the operator is cut in the final meters, the drone can use image recognition to identify and hit the pre-programmed target. This is the true revolution: drones that think on their own when communication fails. The attack on Lipetsk was the perfect testing ground for this technology, and the results were catastrophic for Russia. Comment below. Do you think drone technology will replace tanks and manned aircraft in the future? Your opinion is fundamental to our debate. The geopolitical impact: Moscow's silence and the global response. Following the devastating attack, the official silence from the Kremlin was deafening. For the first 24 hours, Russian state news agencies tried to downplay the incident, describing it as a small accidental fire caused by a short circuit. However, satellite imagery and videos leaked by local residents on Telegram told a very different story. The destruction of the Lipetsk plant created an immediate logistical vacuum. Without the high-performance batteries produced there, the cadence of Kinjal missile launches and the use of UMPK-guided bombs suffered a drastic reduction across the entire front line. International analysts suggest that this attack could be the prelude to a new phase of the war, where Ukraine systematically focuses on Russia's deep industrial infrastructure. This forces the Russian military command to make an impossible decision: withdraw air defense systems from the front line to protect factories in the interior, or leave their industrial base vulnerable to further drone attacks. It is a strategic dilemma that erodes the confidence of Russian elites in Putin's ability to ensure national security. If you want to understand how these events affect the global economy and commodity prices, consider supporting the channel. Your contribution allows us to bring war economy experts to our analysis. Meanwhile, in Kyiv, the mood is one of caution but clear satisfaction. The success of the Baba Yaga operation validated Ukraine's massive investment in domestic drone technology. The country is becoming the world's most advanced war laboratory, developing solutions that NATO powers are now eagerly studying. The lesson from Lipetsk is clear. In the 21st century, the brute mass of an army can be defeated by distributed intelligence and technological agility. The reaction from the international community was also immediate. Russia's neighboring countries, such as Poland and the Baltic states, increased their state of vigilance, fearing that the Kremlin's desperation could lead to an unpredictable escalation. On the other hand, Ukraine's allies saw the attack as proof that continued military support is generating tangible results, hitting the heart of the Russian war machine. Share your vision. Do you believe Russia will attempt direct retaliation against Ukrainian civilian infrastructure after this blow? Leave your comment and join the discussion. The future of the Lipetsk plant is uncertain. Engineering experts state that rebuilding a lithium battery production line after a chemical fire of this magnitude could take years. The contaminated soil and compromised structure make the site a monument to the failure of Russian defense. For Ukraine, Lipetsk is a symbol of hope. For Russia, it is a constant reminder that the war they started is now knocking at their door in ways they never imagined. Drone technology will continue to evolve. What we saw in Lipetsk was just the beginning. Swarms of smarter, faster, and more lethal drones are being prepared in secret workshops across Ukraine. The world changed on January 4, 2026, and the shockwaves of this attack will continue to be felt for a long time. Thank you for being part of our community. Your search for the truth is what keeps us active. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. Until the next breaking news analysis. The strategic shift, redefining modern warfare. The Lipetsk operation marks a definitive shift in the paradigm of modern warfare. For decades, military doctrine was built around the concept of air superiority achieved through manned aircraft and massive missile batteries. However, the success of the Ukrainian drone swarm has demonstrated that atmospheric dominance can now be achieved through low-cost, high-intelligence autonomous systems. This is not just a tactical victory. It is a technological revolution that is forcing every major military power to rewrite their playbooks. The use of the mother-child drone architecture is particularly significant. By separating the long-range navigation and signal relay functions, the mother, from the terminal attack function, the child, Ukraine has created a system that is incredibly difficult to neutralize. Even if a Pantsir system manages to shoot down a few incoming FPVs, the overall network remains intact. This distributed nature of the threat is what makes it so lethal. It is a hydra of the digital age. Cut off one head, and the body continues to strike. If you find this deep dive into the future of military technology fascinating, please consider supporting our channel by becoming a member. Your support helps us produce more in-depth content like this. Furthermore, the psychological impact on the Russian military cannot be overstated. The realization that their most advanced air defense systems can be bypassed by plastic and motors is a crushing blow to morale. It creates a sense of vulnerability that permeates every level of the command structure. If a strategic facility 155 miles behind the lines is not safe, then nothing is. This fear is a force multiplier for Ukraine, as it forces Russia to divert resources and attention away from the front lines. The economic implications are also profound. The destruction of the Lipetsk plant is a direct hit to Russia's ability to sustain its high-tech war effort. The global supply chain for lithium-ion batteries is already strained, and Russia's ability to source the specialized components needed to rebuild such a facility is severely limited by international sanctions. This means that the Lipetsk gap in Russia's military production will likely persist for the foreseeable future, creating a permanent disadvantage on the battlefield. What are your thoughts on the long-term economic impact of this attack? Can Russia find a way to bypass sanctions and rebuild its defense industry? Share your views in the comments below. As we look to the future, it is clear that the drone revolution is only in its infancy. We are moving toward a world where autonomous swarms will be the primary tool of both offense and defense. The lessons learned in the frozen skies of Lipetsk will shape the development of military technology for decades to come. The era of the invincible fortress is over. The era of the intelligent swarm has begun. The world is watching, and the stakes could not be higher. The decisions made by military leaders and policymakers in the wake of Lipetsk will determine the balance of power in the 21st century. Ukraine has shown the way, and the rest of the world is now racing to catch up. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more updates on this developing story. We will continue to provide you with the latest news and analysis as the situation in Russia and Ukraine evolves. The USS Abraham Lincoln and its strike group remain on high alert, ready to respond to any provocation. The world watches and waits, hoping for a resolution that avoids further bloodshed and instability. The stakes could not be higher, and the decisions made in the coming days and weeks will shape the course of history for years to come. Thank you for your continued support and for being part of our community. Your engagement and feedback are invaluable to us. Remember to like, share, and comment on this video. We look forward to seeing you in our next update. Final thoughts. The dawn of a new era. In conclusion, the Lipetsk operation is more than just a successful military strike. It is a harbinger of a new era in human conflict. The traditional boundaries of the battlefield have been erased, and the definition of security has been fundamentally altered. As we move forward, the ability to innovate and adapt will be the most critical asset for any nation. The story of Lipetsk will be studied in military academies for generations, not just for its tactical brilliance, but for what it tells us about the changing nature of power in the modern world. Stay tuned as we continue to follow this and other stories that are shaping our future. Thank you for watching, and remember, the future is being written today.